Hello my beauties, welcome to day number 4. Today is all about uncovering, getting really clear on what could stop you from creating what you want, what you said you wanted yesterday, what you saw in that vision, what you have identified as your internally inspired desires. Because it's one thing to get really clear on what we want, and then it's a whole other ball game to ensure that we create a conducive state within our mind and our body and our soul and our thoughts and our emotions and everything that forms the basis of us, to ensure that we are actualizing that. So today is going to be about exploring things that happened in your past that have maybe created a negative imprint for you. Things that have happened that have created certain fears. Things that have hurt you in the past, that have meant that you now avoid certain situations, or that you have become who you are in terms of the actions and beliefs and ways of creating and interacting that are not currently pleasing you. So there's going to be a lot of that in today's activities, and of course you're going to be following on from day 1, which was very much a sitting with the finer details of what it is that you don't like, the truth. But this is going to go a little bit deeper. I sometimes call it bowing down to rise up, because in the process of excavating and delving and sort of kind of imagining like a giant drill that you're sort of, or one of those road drills, that you're sort of, breaking the surface to get underneath, and underneath being your emotions, your fears, the parts of you that have been wounded. So we're going to get into that and begin to understand, not only understand, this is the biggie, start to heal and clear. All right? So you, as a human being, are a vibrational being. You are made up of every single thought, experience, every single conversation you've had, that moment when you were in preschool and your teacher didn't give you enough praise when you handed in your painting, that moment in high school when you'd stayed up half the night completing an assignment and you got a C- rather than that A that you wanted. Everything and anything that we trudge through in life creates who we are today. So in order to understand why we haven't created what we want so far, or what could possibly hinder us, block us, or slow us down from doing so moving forward, we're going to get into a good state of understanding. So to give you an even clearer idea, if we were to take a marker pen and write and fill all over your body with each wound experience, with each time that you went through something that then led you to form in your mind, in your often subconscious mind, a strong limiting belief, then there probably would be no more skin left on your body. Same with me, same with all of us. We are the sum total of everything we've ever experienced. So looking at what went on, looking at what is in your energetic and emotional makeup will provide you with the map, so to speak, to be able to navigate your way into this beautiful transformation. So your mind is the hub of your life. Your mind is kind of like the captain of the ship. Your mind tends to govern what happens, and there are two distinct parts to your mind, and you may already know this, and we're really just touching on the surface here. There's the conscious part of your mind, which provides you with the awareness of what you're thinking, being and doing, and then there's also the unconscious part of your mind, which tends to govern above all what happens and not happens in your life. And that part of your mind, the unconscious part of your mind, is almost buried so deep that unless we begin to do work like this or hypnotherapy or anything like that, stays very buried, yet very hindering in our quest for an improved state of being and living. So today we're also, on top of glancing back and tracing the root or the number of roots of our disconnect or our blockages, we are also going to delve into our thought processes. We're going to delve into the way that we think and feel, look at and believe regarding our desires. So yesterday you guys uncovered and got really clear on what it is you want. So today we're going to look at what could stop you from getting that. So I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to move out of the way, and I'm just going to guide you for a few moments, just to set the tone for the work that we're going to be doing today. Just to begin to awaken that part of your mind that actually holds what I call the gems, the golden nuggets, those really valuable pieces of information that are clues for us. They provide us with clear instructions as to how to rewire and shift what we might be currently thinking or believing. So we're going to call forth just one limiting belief. I want you to think back to yesterday's desire list that you created. You tapped very deeply into your vision of what you are desiring over the last 2 days. And I'm going to ask this question, and I want you to call in one simple answer. There will be many available to you, but we want to pay attention to the one that screams out the loudest. And I'm going to ask you this very powerful question. What could stop you? What could stop you? So hold that thought, and if you've got your journal close by to you, jot it down, and then open your eyes before you jot it down. So that exercise was to demonstrate to you how actually a lot of what we need to excavate and extract from the mind, you can have access to it quite quickly. And all that is required is some focus, some intention. So we set the intention just before that very short process to connect with one limiting belief or thought. So, as well as internal blocks, so thoughts and wounds and fears and limiting ideas, perceptions, as well as all of those, we also have on top of us, weighing us down, physical blocks, external blocks. And these seem really, really real. These seem absolute. When we think of our physical environment, the responsibilities that we have, whether we're a parent or we're caring for our parents, whether we are tied down to a job because we need the income. And oftentimes the external blocks can be shifted if we first shift our internal blocks, right? So, for example, glancing back in time, identifying what the triggers were, what happened, what didn't happen. Were you let down? Were you heartbroken? Were you abandoned? Did you fail at something? Are you currently failing at something? Looking at all the tangible evidence and then almost playing like join the dots, marking one, connecting one to the other, and understanding that one day, long ago, something happened and you decided this. And the reason that happens is because our mind, our logical mind, one of the biggest jobs that it has is to keep us safe. To keep us safe, to keep you safe. So we can't really knock it when really all it's trying to do is to take care of you. But it doesn't have the level of the intellectual level enough to discern when it needs to pull back and when a certain idea, behavior or perception is hindering rather than helping. So that's when this work becomes really powerful, because you get to be that, you get to take that role on in this work. You get to be the one choosing whether that's a healthy way of thinking, being or doing, or whether it's unhealthy, whether it's assisting you and uplifting you, or whether it's hindering you. And you know what, we're going to start this process today, but I will tell you that this is something that needs to be ongoing, because what happens is when we decide to transform, the word transform is comes to be split into two separate smaller words. And when we think of the word form, we think of something that's absolute. Think of something that's finalized. Well, actually, putting those two words together, transform, means that we are changing the form. And in this case, we're changing your life, which also includes everything and anything that's inside of your life that has room for improvement. Actually, I always say there's always room for improvement on any and all levels and capacity. There's always room for improvement. So your form not only is depicted by the life that you lead, but it's also depicted by the inner workings of your physical body, your mental body, and your spiritual body, including your emotions. So, of course, if we are on a quest to transform your life, we must first transform your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual body. So this is why today is really important. Because if you were to stay exactly how you are, thinking the same thoughts, believing the same beliefs, expecting the same outcomes, and carrying the same wounds that you've been carrying for all of your life. Now, it can seem quite heavy to say, well, you're wounded and you're broken and you're hurt, and we're not speaking of that at all. We're just very simply acknowledging the truth that we accumulate and we become everything that we've ever experienced. And that is just the way that it goes. And I don't want today to be an invitation to you to kind of beat up on yourself or feel as though you're weak or though you're broken. No, no, no. We do this work with a view to gaining empowerment. We do this work because we can. And it's all about taking responsibility for what happened and also taking responsibility for choosing differently, choosing from this day forward to show up differently and think differently and realign not only your thoughts but also your whole being, your whole form, realigning that with who you want to be. So for example, looking at each desire in turn, which you're going to do today, and answering the question in relation to every single little desire and the vision, what could stop me? What could stop me? And by doing that, you're going to be taking responsibility and becoming master of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, life, your form. You're going to be becoming a master of it rather than allowing what currently is or has been to master you. Now, I said very early on in this class today that the mind is the navigator. It's the captain, you know. Imagine that captain, and there's a little captain in your brain, and it's leading the way. It's deciding where you go, and that will continue on until you say no more, and you take radical action and you take responsibility. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So if we decide that that's how it's going to be, we're going to kickstart it with today's activities, but I urge you to continue this work. As I've already said, we transform, but in layers. So imagine an onion, and imagine how multi-layered an onion is. It's a bit of a strange analogy, but it's widely used in this arena of teaching. So perhaps in this week, this 7-day course, we will peel several layers of your onion away, the ones that are sort of rotting or outdated or a little bit old. And then we reveal that the new segment of your life. But then very quickly, depending on the momentum, the flow, the phase that you're in, the cycle that you're currently in, those new layers will then quickly become outdated and old again. And it's almost like you've got this never-ending layered sphere or layered onion, so to speak. So the reason why I say this is the beginning, this is kick-starting, and that you should try to set the intention to revisit this kind of work every few weeks, every couple of months, to take stock, understand, become super aware, but also take responsibility for what is or isn't happening, depending on what you do or don't want. So today is going to be really cool. Again, it's getting a little bit technical, i.e. a comparison chart. It's nice to be able to see things mapped out. It can really empty out the brain and clear the body when we put it onto paper. And then we can glance at it, and over time we'll be able to really instantly actually understand what we need to do, what's stopping us, what we need to do to change that. So it's all about uncovering what could uniquely stop you from creating the life and the elements of your life that you really, really desire. And remember, your desires are a preview for what is next. Very often we're taught, aren't we, that our desires are frivolous. Don't be greedy, don't be over the top, be grateful for what you've got. Who do you think you are for wanting this or that or something better? So it's really important to understand that when we connect with our internally inspired desires, that we could be desiring our own private jet, but if it's come from an internally desired space, then that's what you should go for. Now, I just pulled that example out of thin air. There is no right or wrong. There is no judgment of what is acceptable and not acceptable, okay? But when you are connecting in with your internally inspired desires, that is when you are on purpose. That's an indication that you're on purpose, all right? I desire lots of things that other people might seem frivolous. The fact that I have someone to help me clean my house. Some people label that as over the top, lazy, and frivolous. But we're two individual people. We're two very unique individual people. So what's good for one person isn't not necessarily going to be good for another person. However, this example also gives me the opportunity to explain how our programming, so what we've been fed and taught and experienced throughout life, can shape and mould how far we move along on our transformational journey or our upgrade scale. So, for example, coming back to the phantom person who might think that having somebody to help you clean your house is frivolous, over the top and lazy, what I would suggest there is to ask that question: where did that belief come from? Who told that person that it's frivolous or lazy or over the top to have someone to help them clean their house? So it's through this exploration, this inner exploration, that we can remove the blocks. So that's what you're going to be doing today. So this is exciting because this is almost like insurance to ensure that you are going to create what you want. This is almost like a guarantee. It's like a bit of troubleshooting, you know. We've said this is what we want. We've said why we want it. We've connected to all of that. And now we're looking at what could stop us. A little bit like if we were to design a building. Of course, you're going to create the design and the blueprint for the building. But then when you purchase the land, there must first be some kind of recce, some kind of observation, some kind of exploration of the land. Is the land suitable for this building to be erected? Is it strong enough? Is it the right material? Is the area suitable, the environment? And we can also look at planting a garden in the same way. We might have an amazing vision for a garden that we want to grow, and we might have all the seedlings and all the plants and everything ready to go, but without actually taking a close look at the land, we are not guaranteed to grow this flourishing, beautiful, fulfilling garden. So it's exactly the same thing with your life transformation. So today we're doing the kind of thing that you do before planting a garden. You'd pick out the weeds and you'd rake the soil and you'd remove any debris or any rocks. You would give it a good watering. I'm not a gardener, so I'm really just sort of guessing here, but it's common sense. So that's what you're going to be doing today. So enjoy it, take empowerment from it, get excited about the process, and be willing to go deep. Be willing to feel a little bit uncomfortable as you're excavating old memories. Be willing to be reminded. Be willing to revisit. Be willing to feel the emotions that might be arising as you are re-experiencing. Because when we think about something, our whole body responds in the exact same way as if we were actually experiencing it in real time. So it could be a little bit uncomfortable for some of the time. And this is why I share the statement, bowing down gracefully to rise up powerfully. So it's as though you are giving permission to yourself to be temporarily weak and sad or hurt or whatever emotions arise. You're giving yourself permission and you're consciously entering into a short period of weakness, for want of a better word, but with a very clear intention to rise back up even stronger and even more powerfully. So the last thing I'll share with you about today is to segment some time for yourself. Give yourself the space. Give yourself whatever you need. Be extra kind to yourself. If you live with other people, let them know that, hey, I'm about to do some tricky work. Not necessarily, but I might end up feeling quite sensitive for the rest of the day or the afternoon or the morning. Make sure you've got some nourishment nearby. Make sure you have the time in your diary to lay down and sleep if you need to. When we dredge up old emotions and wounds and pain and whatever's going to be coming up, it can kind of weigh us down physically. It can be quite exhausting. It may not be the case for you, but I really needed to let you know, just in case it is. And of course, I'm here. If any of the experiences that you're reliving get a little bit icky, do just comment below and let me know and say, hey Maria, I need you, and I'll respond as soon as I'm able to. So just making sure we've got everything, I've shared everything with you. Yeah, we're good. So I'm going to let you go and get on with the activities for the day. Take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. Enjoy bowing down to rise up. Until tomorrow.